April 2026. South of Pokrovsk, a Russian assault group surged across open ground at high speed. Motorcycle engines roared through the morning haze as riders pushed toward Ukrainian positions. Everything appeared to be going according to plan. The attackers were moving fast, avoiding predictable routes, and closing the distance before defenders could fully react. Then something unexpected happened. Within moments, the entire assault began to unravel. Riders scattered. Momentum vanished. What looked like a coordinated advance suddenly turned into confusion across the battlefield. For soldiers watching from both sides, it was another reminder that modern war rarely unfolds the way commanders expect. So what is causing these attacks to collapse so quickly around Pokrovsk? Before we begin, subscribe to Military Force for more in-depth battlefield analysis and frontline reports. To understand what is happening around Pokrovsk today, we first need to understand why this battlefield has become one of the most important sectors in eastern Ukraine. For months, Russian forces have continued to apply pressure across this area, hoping to weaken Ukrainian defenses and create opportunities for further advances. The fighting here is intense, constant, and costly. Every tree line, every ruined village, and every stretch of open ground has become part of a larger struggle that both sides view as strategically important. What makes Pokrovsk different is that it is exposing a major change in the way modern warfare is being fought. Earlier in the war, large armored formations often led offensive operations. Tanks, infantry fighting vehicles, and armored personnel carriers were expected to punch through defensive lines and create breakthroughs. That approach worked in many conflicts of the past. However, the battlefield in Ukraine is no longer the same environment military planners studied years ago. As drone technology spread across the front, armored vehicles became easier to find and easier to track. Small FPV drones began appearing in growing numbers on both sides. These systems are relatively cheap compared to tanks, yet they can destroy equipment worth millions of dollars. Once a vehicle is spotted, operators can guide drones directly toward weak points, often with devastating results. This has forced commanders to rethink how they move troops across contested terrain. Russian armored units have faced increasing challenges as a result. Tanks and infantry fighting vehicles that once provided protection now attract attention the moment they begin moving. Reconnaissance drones constantly search for targets, while strike drones wait for opportunities to attack. In many cases, vehicles are engaged long before reaching their objectives. The battlefield has become far more transparent than it was at the beginning of the war. As losses mounted, Russian forces gradually began adjusting their tactics. Instead of relying entirely on large mechanized assaults, commanders started sending smaller groups forward. Motorcycles, ATVs, light buggies, and compact infantry teams began appearing more frequently around the Pokrovsk sector. This was not simply an experiment. It was a response to a battlefield where survival often depends on avoiding detection rather than absorbing enemy fire. These lighter platforms offer several advantages. They move quickly across open ground and can change direction without warning. Their smaller size makes them harder to spot than armored vehicles. They require fewer resources, consume less fuel, and can be replaced more easily if destroyed. Most importantly, they allow troops to exploit small gaps before defenders have time to react. The goal behind these attacks is straightforward. Russian assault groups attempt to cross dangerous areas as rapidly as possible, reach Ukrainian positions, and establish a foothold before defensive systems can fully respond. Speed becomes their protection. Every second matters because the longer they remain exposed, the greater the chance they will be detected by drones, observed by infantry, or targeted by artillery fire. For the soldiers carrying out these missions, the reality is far more dangerous than it may appear on a map. Many of these riders are crossing open fields that have already claimed countless vehicles and infantry units. They know surveillance aircraft may already be overhead. They know artillery batteries could be waiting for coordinates. They know that once they enter the contested zone, there may be very few places to hide. Yet they continue moving forward because hesitation can be just as deadly as enemy fire. This is why motorcycle assaults have become such a visible feature of the fighting around Pokrovsk. They represent an attempt to solve a modern battlefield problem using speed, mobility, and unpredictability. But there is one weakness built into every fast-moving assault force. No matter how quickly it advances, success depends on maintaining cohesion and keeping the formation moving toward its objective. And on the battlefields around Pokrovsk, momentum has become one of the most valuable resources any assault group can possess. The problem is that momentum can disappear in a matter of seconds. The greatest weakness of a motorcycle assault is that it depends on coordination. And once that coordination disappears, the entire attack can begin falling apart within seconds. From a distance, these fast-moving groups may look difficult to stop. Riders move quickly, spread across open terrain, and often approach from unexpected directions. However, beneath that speed lies a fragile structure that depends on discipline, timing, and clear leadership. A motorcycle assault is not simply a collection of soldiers riding toward the front line. Each rider has a role. Some carry supplies, others transport infantry, and several are responsible for guiding the formation through safe routes. The men at the front are especially important because they act as navigators for everyone behind them. They identify paths around obstacles, avoid known danger areas, and maintain the direction of advance. When conditions become chaotic, the rest of the group often relies on those lead riders to make split-second decisions. This creates a problem that many people do not immediately see. Unlike armored columns equipped with advanced communication systems, motorcycle teams operate under significant limitations. Engines generate noise. Dust reduces visibility. Terrain constantly changes. Radio communication is often brief and difficult during high-speed movement. Riders frequently depend on visual cues from the person in front of them rather than detailed instructions from commanders located miles away. Now imagine a typical assault moving across open ground near Pokrovsk. The group is traveling quickly because every minute spent in the open increases the risk of detection. Dust rises behind the motorcycles. The riders focus on maintaining speed while scanning for threats. Then suddenly, the lead rider disappears from view. What happens next can be more important than the casualty itself. The soldiers behind may not immediately understand what happened. Some may believe they are under artillery attack. Others may suspect a drone strike. A few may continue forward while others begin slowing down. In the confusion, valuable seconds are lost. The formation that was moving as a single unit starts behaving like several disconnected groups. Dust clouds can make the situation even worse. Visibility is already limited during rapid movement across dry terrain. Once uncertainty enters the formation, riders may struggle to identify where they should go next. Small gaps begin appearing between motorcycles. Those gaps grow larger as individuals make different decisions under pressure. What began as an organized movement gradually turns into scattered elements, moving without a common direction. Military history provides many examples of this phenomenon. During the age of cavalry, commanders understood that breaking a formation was often more effective than destroying it. Horse-mounted units depended on cohesion to maintain combat power. Once a charge lost its shape, its effectiveness dropped dramatically. Modern motorcycles are obviously different from cavalry horses, yet the same principle still applies. Fast-moving assault groups rely on momentum and organization. Remove either one, and their combat value falls sharply. The psychological effect can be just as damaging as the physical loss. Soldiers entering a dangerous zone already know they face artillery, drones, mines, and small arms fire. When something unexpected happens at the front of the formation, uncertainty spreads quickly. Human beings naturally look for information during moments of danger. If that information is unavailable, hesitation often follows. On a battlefield where every second matters, hesitation can become deadly. This is why disrupting cohesion is often more important than inflicting large numbers of casualties. A single well-placed shot may not destroy an entire assault force by itself. What it can do is create confusion at exactly the wrong moment. Once the formation slows, stops, or changes direction unexpectedly, every other defensive weapon becomes more effective. targets become easier to track. Routes become predictable. Opportunities begin appearing for defenders waiting nearby. In many ways, that is the hidden lesson emerging from the fighting around Pokrovsk. The most important effect of one bullet is not necessarily the damage it causes to a single individual. The real impact comes from the chain reaction that follows. One rider falls, a formation hesitates, momentum disappears, confusion spreads, vulnerabilities emerge. And that is precisely where the next layer of Ukraine's defense begins its work. Because the sniper is not acting alone. He is only one piece of a much larger system. The real story behind the fighting around Pokrovsk is not a sniper, a drone, or a single weapon system. It is the network connecting all of them together. Over the past 2 years, Ukraine has built a layered defensive structure that combines surveillance, rapid information sharing, and precision strikes. This system is designed to find threats early, follow them continuously, and destroy them before they reach Ukrainian positions. At the heart of this approach are reconnaissance drones. Unlike strike drones, their primary job is not to attack. Their mission is to observe. Day and night, small aircraft circle above roads, fields, tree lines, and villages throughout the Pokrovsk sector. Operators monitor live video feeds and search for signs of movement. A motorcycle crossing an open field, a group of soldiers leaving cover, or a vehicle moving along a dirt road can all become targets for further investigation. What makes these systems so effective is persistence. In previous wars, reconnaissance often came from aircraft that appeared briefly before leaving the area. Today, drones can remain overhead for extended periods, continuously watching the same location. As a result, defenders are often aware of enemy activity long before an attack reaches the front line. Once movement is detected, the next step begins. Information is quickly passed through a network connecting drone operators, frontline troops, artillery units, sniper teams, and command centers. Modern warfare increasingly depends on speed of information rather than speed of movement. The side that understands what is happening first usually gains a significant advantage. Military planners often describe this process as a kill chain. The sequence begins with detection. Something suspicious is observed. Identification follows as operators determine whether the object is a vehicle, an infantry group, or another target. Tracking comes next. The objective is monitored continuously so its position remains known. Finally, engagement occurs when the most suitable weapon is assigned to eliminate the threat. Around Pokrovsk, this process happens repeatedly throughout the day. Reports from the battlefield suggest that many Russian assault groups are identified well before reaching Ukrainian defensive positions. In some cases, defenders may be observing a unit for several kilometers before deciding when and how to strike. By the time attackers approach the front line, Ukrainian forces often already know their direction, speed, and likely destination. Motorcycle units face particular challenges within this environment. Their mobility allows them to move faster than armored vehicles, but speed does not guarantee invisibility. Drone cameras can still spot movement across open terrain. Thermal sensors can detect heat signatures, especially during colder periods. Even engine noise can reveal the presence of approaching riders. Soldiers stationed near the front frequently report hearing motorcycles long before they become visible. This creates a battlefield unlike anything seen in many previous conflicts. A rider may believe he is moving undetected through a field or along a tree line. In reality, several different systems could already be watching him. A reconnaissance drone may be tracking his position from above. Infantry observers may be reporting activity through radios. Artillery crews may already have coordinates loaded into their fire control systems. The attacker often has no way of knowing. When an engagement finally begins, multiple defensive layers can activate almost simultaneously. FPV drone teams may target vehicles or infantry moving in exposed areas. Snipers can focus on key individuals within an assault formation. Riflemen engage targets that move closer to defensive positions. Mortars provide rapid, indirect fire against concentrated groups. Larger artillery systems strike assembly areas, routes of approach, or suspected staging zones further behind the front. The result is a battlefield where every movement carries risk. Surviving one layer does not mean escaping the next. An assault group may avoid artillery fire only to encounter drone operators. It may evade drones and then face small arms fire. It may pass through one danger area only to enter another. Each layer supports the others, creating a defensive network that becomes increasingly difficult to penetrate. For Russian troops advancing toward Ukrainian positions, this can be an unsettling reality. They may survive mines, shelling, and long-range strikes, yet still find themselves hunted by an invisible system that never stops watching. The greatest threat is not always the weapon that ultimately fires the shot. Often, it is the network that detected, tracked, and guided that weapon to its target. And nowhere is this transformation more visible than in the Ukrainian formations defending the approaches to Pokrovsk. No unit illustrates that evolution better than Azov and the rapidly expanding UAV forces operating across this sector. One of the clearest examples of how warfare is changing can be found in the Ukrainian units defending the Pokrovsk sector. While tanks, artillery, and infantry remain important, an increasing share of battlefield influence now belongs to formations built around drones, surveillance, and rapid information sharing. Among the forces playing a major role in this area is the Azov Brigade, which has become one of the key elements in Ukraine's defensive effort along this critical section of the front. The responsibility facing these troops is enormous. The front line around Pokrovsk stretches across a wide area, covering multiple settlements, roads, fields, and defensive positions. Russian forces continue applying pressure through repeated attacks, often testing different routes and searching for weak points. Holding such a large sector requires more than manpower alone. It requires the ability to see threats early and respond quickly before they can develop into larger problems. This challenge has helped drive the rapid expansion of Ukrainian drone units. Over the past year, UAV formations operating around Pokrovsk have grown significantly in both size and capability. Some commanders have reported major increases in personnel, allowing them to maintain more observation posts, operate additional drone teams, and sustain round-the-clock surveillance. What began as a supporting capability has evolved into one of the most important parts of Ukraine's defensive structure. These units now operate a wide variety of systems, each designed for a specific mission. Reconnaissance drones constantly scan the battlefield and search for movement. FPV drones provide precision strike capability against vehicles, infantry groups, and defensive positions. Loitering munitions remain airborne while searching for targets before diving toward them. Heavy bomber drones carry larger payloads and can attack concentrations of troops or equipment. Ground robotic platforms are increasingly used for logistics and specialized tasks in dangerous areas. Long-range UAVs extend the fight far beyond the front line and can strike valuable targets deep behind enemy positions. Together, these systems create an operational network that reaches across the battlefield. Ukrainian commanders often describe their mission in simple terms: stop assault groups before they reach Ukrainian lines. That objective sounds straightforward, but achieving it requires coordination between many different elements. Information gathered by one operator may immediately be passed to another team, several kilometers away. Decisions must be made quickly because targets rarely remain in the same place for long. This has produced a new kind of battlefield cooperation. Drone operators, infantry units, artillery crews, and reconnaissance personnel work together as part of a single process rather than separate branches. A reconnaissance team may locate a target. A drone crew may track it. Frontline soldiers may confirm its identity. Artillery or FPV units may then conduct the strike. Every participant contributes to the final result. As a result, the profile of an effective soldier is beginning to change. In previous generations, military prestige often centered around tank commanders, fighter pilots, or elite infantry formations. Those roles remain important, but modern combat is creating new specialists whose influence can shape an entire battle. A skilled drone operator sitting in a concealed position may have greater impact on events than a vehicle crew positioned much closer to the fighting. This shift is visible throughout the Pokrovsk sector. Reports from Ukrainian units regularly describe drone teams identifying assault groups, directing fire, and disrupting attacks before they gain momentum. Commanders have stated that preventing Russian forces from reaching Ukrainian defensive positions remains their highest priority. Every successful interception reduces pressure on frontline troops and limits opportunities for enemy breakthroughs. The emotional reality behind this transformation is striking. Many of the people influencing the battle are no longer advancing across fields inside armored vehicles. Instead, they are sitting behind screens, studying live video feeds, making rapid decisions, and controlling machines operating miles away. Their actions may determine whether an assault succeeds or fails, yet they often remain invisible to both the enemy and the public watching from afar. For military observers, Pokrovsk offers a glimpse into the future of warfare. The battlefield is increasingly shaped by teams that combine traditional combat skills with advanced technology. Success depends not only on courage and firepower, but also on information, coordination, and the ability to act faster than an opponent. Meanwhile, Russian commanders continue searching for ways to overcome this increasingly deadly surveillance environment. And their next adaptations reveal just how difficult that challenge has become. One of the clearest signs of how rapidly this war is changing can be seen in the growing number of so-called turtle tanks appearing on the battlefield. These vehicles represent Russia's latest attempt to adapt to an environment where drones have become one of the most dangerous threats facing armored forces. Instead of relying solely on traditional armor, crews began adding large metal cages, steel frames, and extra protective layers around their vehicles in an effort to survive repeated aerial attacks. The purpose of these modifications is straightforward. FPV drones often target vulnerable areas on tanks and infantry fighting vehicles. By adding external structures, crews hope to detonate incoming drones before they reach critical parts of the vehicle. In theory, the additional protection increases survivability and allows armored units to move closer to their objectives. However, battlefield reports from Ukraine suggest that these measures have produced mixed results. While some vehicles have survived individual strikes, many continue to face repeated attacks during the same mission. Drone operators often strike the same target multiple times, searching for weak points and gradually damaging mobility, sensors, communications equipment, or exposed sections of armor. In some cases, vehicles have reportedly been hit several times before reaching their intended destination. This trend highlights a much larger problem facing armored warfare today. Throughout military history, tanks were designed to combine protection, mobility, and firepower. For decades, they dominated battlefields because they could absorb punishment while continuing to advance. Now that advantage is being challenged by technologies that cost far less than the platforms they are attacking. The economic imbalance is difficult to ignore. A modern armored vehicle can cost millions of dollars to build, maintain, and operate. By comparison, many FPV drones cost only a small fraction of that amount. Yet these relatively inexpensive systems can threaten equipment that once required anti-tank missiles or heavy artillery to destroy. This creates a battlefield where cost and combat effectiveness are no longer moving in the same direction. As a result, Russian commanders have increasingly shifted toward infantry-heavy tactics. Smaller assault groups, motorcycles, ATVs, and light vehicles are appearing more frequently because they present a less attractive target than large armored formations. In many ways, the rise of motorcycle assaults is not an isolated development. It is a symptom of a much broader transformation taking place across the entire front. What is emerging around Pokrovsk is the growing dominance of reconnaissance strike networks. Detection, tracking, and rapid engagement are becoming more important than sheer armor thickness. The battlefield now rewards concealment, dispersion, and flexibility while punishing anything that can be easily identified from the air. That may be the most important military lesson coming from this conflict. A vehicle weighing dozens of tons can now be threatened by a weapon small enough to fit inside a backpack. Strength alone is no longer enough if an opponent can see you first and strike before you have a chance to react. And that reality raises a much larger question extending far beyond Pokrovsk. What we are witnessing may not simply be a battle for one Ukrainian city. It may be an early glimpse of how future wars will be fought around the world. The battle we began with was never really about one rider falling in a field outside Pokrovsk. What followed after that moment tells a much larger story. The formation lost its direction, the attack slowed, and the defenders gained the advantage. Soon after, other elements of Ukraine's battlefield network moved into action, turning a fast-moving assault into another costly setback. That is why the fighting around Pokrovsk may become one of the most important military case studies of this war. Russian forces continue searching for ways to break through, yet each new adaptation faces the same challenge. It must survive a battlefield where detection happens quickly, and precision strikes follow shortly after. In many cases, information is moving faster than soldiers can react. The lesson is remarkably simple. Speed matters. Determination matters. But in modern warfare, the side that finds the target first often gains the upper hand. If you enjoy deep military analysis, battlefield breakdowns, and clear explanations of the conflicts shaping today's world, be sure to subscribe to Military Force and join us for our next report from the front lines of modern warfare.